Hey everybody. Today I'd like to talk about something other than the equity market. I'd like to talk about Bitcoin today. So Bitcoin has been a very hot topic since the later part of the 2017. So I've actually been a Bitcoin investor since 2012, which is 6 years ago. Right. So you heard it right. I've been a Bitcoin investor since 2012, which is 6 years ago. I don't have a lot of Bitcoin holdings, unfortunately. I do have quite a bit Litecoin holdings. However, right now I do not hold any cryptocurrency. I've sold them all. Just to, I mean, you probably don't believe me that I got into Bitcoin, got into crypto since 2012. Well, I do have a proof for you. So back in 2012, I was still in school. I was doing my master's degree. I actually wrote an email. This is the email from 2012, in which I wrote to my professor that I'd like to write a paper on Bitcoin. Okay. So back in the day, you can see that the Bitcoin was only $17 per coin, and actually back in 2000, I think early 2012, or I think early 2011, there was a attack on the Mt. Gox, which is the one of the first Bitcoin exchange in the world, and the Bitcoin actually temporarily plunged to 1 cent per coin. That's pretty amazing, right? If you look at right now, even the average price back in 2012 was only $17. So the high of the Bitcoin uh, rally this time was 20,000. So this is like a thousand times increase, right? It's amazing. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of Bitcoin. I have very little. Back in the day when I was a student, I didn't buy that much. But I bought and sold back in 2015, the last Bitcoin bubble, and I sold quite a bit of my holdings back in the 2014 bubble. And however, I do own quite a bit Litecoin still, and I sold them recently. Okay, so I'd like to talk about where Bitcoin's going. So my view of Bitcoin, just gonna just summarize it, is not good, right? I think this thing's gonna go down even more. The reason is, well, Bitcoin is a very speculative financial instrument, and its rise is huge. It has huge rallies, usually 2,000%, 3,000% rallies, 10 times rally, 20 times rallies. It also goes down by a huge percentage as well. Historically speaking, Bitcoin has a couple of bear markets. For example, this one, the last one back in 2013, which I sold my coins roughly here. This bear market actually lasted quite a bit of time, and it was a decline of how much? Of a of 84%, right? So when you have euphoria like this, the decline is usually is also very dramatic, right? It's 86%, and right now we have a decline from the top roughly only 54%. And the thing is, the reason I'm making this video is just in case you're watching this, I'm just telling you this thing is gonna go down even more. Unfortunately, there's no good ways of taking advantage of the Bitcoin decline because for a retail investor, I mean, you can use Bitcoin future, of course, but Bitcoin future, if you try to sell the Bitcoin future, it requires a huge margin. It has a huge margin requirement, at least for I use Interactive Brokers, and the margin requirement on the Bitcoin future is actually 5 times. So let's say you have 100,000, you only can short 20,000 Bitcoin future, which is very little, um, and it uses up all your margin, right? You use up all your capital, which is not really worth it to short a Bitcoin future. The Bitcoin future is really designed for institutions. I mean, these institutions are probably taking advantage of Bitcoin future because institutions have much less margin requirements for these instruments, so they're the ones are reaping the profit, right? I'm pretty sure a lot of the Bitcoin future, I think, was introduced right here. A lot of institutions probably shorted Bitcoin, and now they're making huge amount of money since the peak. So that's when the Bitcoin future got introduced. At this point, I was like, come on, guys, these Wall Street guys are really slimy, right? They don't introduce the Bitcoin future here. They introduce Bitcoin future here. Why? Because Bitcoin future is perfect for shorting the Bitcoin, right? You can always betting on the long side of Bitcoin, just buy the Bitcoin itself. Why would you want to buy future, right? But Bitcoin future is perfect for taking the short side of Bitcoin, because it's very difficult to short Bitcoin in a lot of exchanges. You can't really borrow them, right? That's the thing. So why do I think that Bitcoin is gonna fall down? Maybe have a 90% decline or something like that. Well, one thing is that if you look at the historical behavior of Bitcoin, every bear market it has a close to 90% decline, and this one probably wouldn't be exception. And also look at where it came from, right? I mean, it came from like really low level, like $500, right? Now it's like the peak was 20,000. So whoever who bought here, they can still sell, right, to make a huge amount of profit. And also, I mean, these kind of behavior, these kind of parabolic moves. A lot of people saying, "Hey, Bitcoin is, you know, it's a new paradigm. I mean, never happened, never before this asset like this that behaves like this." Come on, in the history, I can show you at least like 10 assets that used to have these kind of move. So let me just show you another one. Very famous one would be the U.S. stock market before the Great Depression back in 1929. So good things that the software I use called TradingView has more than 100 years of historical data, of daily historical data. So I can actually go back 90 years to 1929 to see what it looks like in the stock market. So take a look at this. If I change to the line graph, you can see that the 1929 let me just turn that into weekly. Okay. It came from a very low level. This is the entire stock market, right? So I'm pretty sure a lot of stocks, individual stocks back in 1929 probably have like a 20x, 30x gain, just like Bitcoin. And the overall market went like parabolic, right? Went pretty much vertical at the peak. And look at this. This is pretty similar to how what's the behavior of Bitcoin right now, right? We have these kind of parabolic peak, came down, have this little pullback, and then completely fell apart. Now we're on the maybe this level. You see that? And if you, imagine you're here. We have this little rally again, just like now. Okay, and what I think is kind of funny is that if you go here, go to TradingView. By the way, when I join TradingView, when I join this website, nobody on the front page, I do not get anything regarding to cryptocurrency. That's when the cryptocurrency is cheap, right? Nobody's paying attention to it. Now, every single post is cryptocurrency related. Every single post. Like, you know what's the best time to buy Bitcoin? When every single post is about stock market again. Okay, nobody talk about cryptocurrency again. If you one day you go to this TradingView, it's easy. So it's easy to find the buy point for cryptocurrency. When nobody is talking about Bitcoin, cryptocurrency on this website anymore, that's the time you want to buy. Right now, everyone's talking about cryptocurrency, and look at these guys drawing all these fancy charts. Like, oh, look at how many lines they're trying to draw. Like, it's crazy. And their conclusion is that repetitive pattern. Here's why it's so important. Drama, capitalize. Look at this guy, Dark Energy. He's apparently the top author of the day, and he's what? He's doing what? 100 new international VIPs. So you have some question on VIP membership. So this guy's trying to get subscribers, whatever. Okay, let's take a look at this guy's analysis. What is it? So he's kind of long, right? He's kind of bullish. He's bullish about Bitcoin. And let's take a look at this Magic Poop Cannon. Great. He's pretty. I don't know what he's doing. Oh, he's talking about he's forming now the bull flag. So he's pretty bullish about Bitcoin as well. At the current level, we have this guy, DL Lavov, whatever. He's also in the top authors column. He's talking about this thing has a, it's breaking out. Let's have a start a new uptrend. Probably this time. I mean, come on, guys. Really? This is gonna be a new uptrend? Have you never learned about history? Here's a history here. Like, same thing, right? This guy lets you draw a line here, and thinking that's some sort of trend line, and we broke out a trend line. Okay, I can draw the same line here. Exactly same thing, right? I'm connecting these two peaks. This is like this guy. This is 1929. I mean, this happened in the history, right? Look what happened. Keep going down. Okay, keep going down, keep going down, keep going down. Okay, so what was the decline for the entire stock market back in the Great Depression? A lot of people didn't know the magnitude of this. The entire stock market dropped 88.8%. And you tell me that this, and by the way, the stock market has fundamental value, right? I mean, these companies have intrinsic values. They dropped by 88% at the bottom. And this thing, I mean, Bitcoin it does have intrinsic value, if I can argue, but it doesn't have, earnings, all that stuff. I mean, this thing could drop like 97%, 96%, right? Back to, maybe, I don't know, maybe this level, maybe this level, 449, right? Or whatever. Even if it dropped to 1,000, it's going to be a 95% drop. Totally likely, okay? So this is one example of how vicious a bear market could be. And this is just one really great example to show that, the Bitcoin is actually making a similar pattern as a very typical bear market, right? It has these little pullbacks and giving all the back holders a lot of hope, thinking that this is going to be a start of a new uptrend. But no, this thing's going to go pull. It's probably going to do exactly the same thing here. Unfortunately, I cannot short Bitcoin. This is amazing short opportunities. Like, you can just short every single rip in Bitcoin. You can make a lot of money. Unfortunately, there's no great instruments for us retail investors to short. I mean, I'm not really a retail investor. I'm a semi-retail investor. I would say a high net worth investor. But still, like, I just don't have the instrument. It takes too much of my margin to short the thing. Yeah. And just give you guys another historical lesson. Bitcoin is not a new paradigm. Look at silver. This is silver. Have you ever seen this? This is silver back in 1979. It was, at the peak, was 112. At the peak was 112. Now the silver is 16 in 2018. Okay? It dropped from 112 to the bottom 2001. It took, how many years for this to reach the bottom? And it's not even inflation. I think it is inflation adjusted. So it is inflation adjusted. Sorry, this is inflation adjusted, but still, it was 112 inflation adjusted, it dropped all the way down to $6 in 2002. That's like a 90% decline, right? And if you look at this, I removed the log scale. You can see that how crazy that rally was, right? Went from like 90 cents to 35 bucks. So that's pretty much similar to how much Bitcoin grew in the last 2 years, right? This is like 3,500% return on silver. And back in the day, back in the 1980s, we already have something called commodity futures, and you can use commodity futures to leverage. Right? It's actually very difficult to do a margin on the Bitcoin. It's very difficult to leverage on the Bitcoin trade on these exchanges. But back in the day, this 30 times return, you can actually do another 5 times leverage, which is like 150 times return if you can trade perfectly, right? So all these like parabolic moves have happened before in history, and not a single time following these kind of huge parabolic move, the market doesn't collapse by like a 90% or 85%. So right now, Bitcoin is only down by 54%. It still have a long way to go, okay? Before all the backholders got wiped out. That's how the market works, right? The market is going to wipe out all the backholders and consolidate at the bottom, maybe for a couple of years, maybe for 1 or 2 years, just like this. Then it's gonna start a new trend, but it won't start a new trend right here. It just won't. It's not even possible. If it does, good for you guys if you buy here, but right now this point has absolutely no risk reward. There's no good risk reward. It's like a terrible point to buy Bitcoin. You have to be like foolish to buy it, right? I mean, it's kind of foolish to even hold it. If your cost level, if you have bought Bitcoin here, you're trying to hold here, that's just like your money's gonna disappear, right? In the next, within a year. If you bought it here, if you're like a long-term holder, like you just don't care about your Bitcoin holdings, then that's fine. You can write it out. You can wait for another 2-3 years. This thing probably gonna bottom out in 2019. Then it's gonna go up again in 2020, 21, right? So this is my analysis on the current Bitcoin. Where is that gonna go? Very logical. I've shown you the historical chart of the Great Depression, and it's a good reference to how a Bitcoin is probably going to behave, because it's the same thing, right? All these stuff are just financial assets that people trade. Back in the day, it's people trading paper, and now we're using computers. Same thing, but the underlying human nature is the same. All right, so this is it for my analysis on the current Bitcoin market analysis, and thanks for watching.